It is essential to make the fullest possible progress on implementation of the recommendations of the Parliamentary Commission of Inquiry by political consensus between the political parties. So there is no chance of last year's events concerning the budget being repeated this year or any year. And so that governing and opposition parties begin to observe mutual respect and dialogue, however difficult, and abide by the Memorandum of Association that they have signed to put the Euro-Atlanticist agenda first. In this context, I record my concern about the credible reports of pressure being exercised by state institutions on the Centaur municipality, and I reiterate that the quality of democracy in all of our countries is partly defined by local government being able to freely exercise its functions without undue interference from central government run by a different political party or political parties. Second, I would like to welcome last week's meeting between the Prime Ministers of this country and of Bulgaria. I express my sincere hope that further visible steps can be made towards reaching agreement on outstanding issues between the two countries in the timescale between now and December. Third, visible improvement on the issue of freedom of expression. I have consulted widely on the current challenges, and I do want to suggest that there are major dangers in such an important reform area if the proposed media law is passed without the broad support of the key stakeholders who are affected by the law, journalists themselves. I do not suggest that the Association of Journalists should be the only voice on this issue, but I am of the opinion that questioning their legitimacy can only undermine and not strengthen efforts to promote a pluralistic and diverse media in this country. And I hope that a way can be found to enable a period of further dialogue to seek genuine consensus around the new media law, if such a law is to be passed. Indeed, once again, I used this visit to encourage a return to dialogue in the round table between journalists and government on the specific roadmap previously agreed to comprehensively address issues of freedom of expression in the country. Now, I've been asked on many occasions in the last days to comment on the imprisonment of the journalist Tomislav Keserowski, and I will make a short statement now. The European Union advocates the principle of the independence of the judiciary for this country and for all EU accession countries. Therefore, as a European politician, I will observe the same discipline that we expect from domestic politicians, not to seek to influence or interfere with the merits of any individual case, including the Keserowski case. Nevertheless, it is legitimate for me to express my serious concern in relation to some elements of the case. I am worried that in this and other cases, there is lengthy use of pre-trial detention and deep concern about the conditions of that detention for defendants who must be regarded as innocent until they are proven to be guilty. I am worried, in this and in other cases, about the excessive delays in prosecutions, which are all too frequently undertaken close to the statute of limitations, and which leaves open the impression that the decision to proceed against a defendant may be determined by political rather than by judicial considerations. And I am worried, in this and other cases, that the cumulative impact of these cases, deliberately or otherwise, may be to create a culture of caution or even fear amongst journalists, editors and owners, and that the result could be to restrict investigative journalism and to promote self-censorship in the media. However, I do record that it is proper for the judicial system in this country to protect the integrity of the system of witness protection. But I say with equal strength that if there are abuses of a system of witness protection leading to false testimony and to wrongful convictions, then if free journalists uncover such abuses, they can be judged to be doing so in the public interest. Moreover, the concern that I express is that a pattern of these and similar cases, if it is true that selective justice applies, may see trust in institutions here eroded, the legitimacy of the government damaged, and democracy itself weakened. And given the international reaction to the Kaczorowski case, in international opinion, it is only honest for me to record that such concerns will inevitably impact on the European Union's assessments of this country. In the case of Mr. Kaczorowski, I call for three things. I call on the government to agree the proper request of the OSCE Special Representative on Freedom of Media, Mrs. Mikhatovich, to make a personal visit to him in jail. I further call on the government to review whether the minimum sentence in the legislation on witness protection is indeed, quote, excessive in comparison with European norms, as some opinion has suggested. And given the reported state of health of Mr. Kaczorowski, I call on relevant authorities to consider their responsibilities within the country's legal framework, including the provisions on special circumstances for early release. Finally, I want to use this press conference to welcome the reopening of the LGTBI Centre in Skopje this week, to reiterate within the country my own condemnation of now 5 attacks on this centre, and to call on politicians and other figures in society to join me in explicitly condemning violence against the LGBTI community. And having spent some time this morning discussing the rule of law, I hope that the judicial authorities will be able to demonstrate the same vigour in identifying and prosecuting these crimes as with other crimes that are perpetrated in this society.